Hello and welcome to Cambridge Photography Week and our on-demand content online. I'm absolutely delighted to have Duncan James with me today, and Duncan is going to talk to us about his project Mad Mods on the Camera and how that's gotten to the stage of being able to exhibit that work in front of the public. So let's get on with it. How you doing, Dunks?
I'm fine, Chris. I'm fine. Thank you very much for inviting us along for this sort of chat here.
Well, it's great to have you here, and let's get on with telling us a bit about this, about yourself and Mad Mods on the Camera.
Yeah, I'll give you a quick synopsis how it all started. It started around about 2015. Saw some mods, scooter boys outside a cafe. I don't know why, even to this day, why I went back. I didn't even have a camera then or anything like that at all. So I just had to dig out whatever I had, this little sort of like little digi camera or whatever, and I just had to go back and photograph them, and it sort of just snowballed from there. They liked what I photographed, and got invited to another event, then another event, and I don't know, it's just I've just bitten the bug basically, and it's something I always had an interest in, that sort of scene when I was younger, because there was a lot of punks and mods and all that sort of stuff. But I don't know, I've just got hooked on it, and now I'm starting to really sort of document. That's 2015. And I'm sort of like coming up to sort of like, what are we now there? 2022, 23, 2023. And is it 2023? It's not, it's 2022.
Oh, it's 2022, Dunks. I know it feels like 2023. So much has happened this year.
That's how old I'm getting. But yeah, so it's just literally how it's just grown and grown and grown. And never did I think that I'd be asked to exhibit what I've been photographing, basically. And I to this day I still use the term a photographer. As a photographer, I still use that as very, very loose. I'm still learning as I go along. So I feel a bit of a fraud when I'm sort of like with other photographers, because I just don't feel I'm even close to them, sort of thing. So, but in my own way, I'm sort of stumbling through and doing what I'm doing, basically. But
you have a particular style, though, don't you, Duncan? It's like, just spend a little bit of time on that, I think.
Yeah. So I mean, I did photography for an A level, which was fine. That was the only time I really picked up a camera. And then the second time I really picked up a camera was in 2015, when I went back and took the photograph of those mods. So I've never really had any interest in photographing anything at all.
Okay.
But I came across this photographer when I was doing it for my A level. He was a German photographer, and he took that famous shot of the sort of sailor with the nurse in Times Square. That famous,
that iconic, yeah.
And there was a quote that he came out with, but the way that he would photograph people, in the essence of it, it's more important to click with the individuals than to click the shutter. So for me, that's what I've loved about this whole scene, in gaining that trust with the people within that scene and photographing them in the right way, that they feel comfortable. Nothing's false or anything like that at all. And of course, they photograph themselves going to events and things like that. But I'm sort of more on the periphery, in sort of just looking in and photographing it and documenting it. But to this day, they still love what I do and how I capture that. Nice. And all my stuff is in black and white. It's very rare that I produce anything in color. Obviously it's photographed in color, but I convert it all to black and white, basically, because I still think it gains an essence from that era when it was first, when the sort of the mod scene first sort of came about, basically. So
so it started off, you shared those photos with the guys in Enfield. Then started putting it online, on Instagram, on your own website.
Yeah, I started sharing some of the shots online, like through Instagram and Facebook, which then naturally led to sort of creating a website, because some of the people weren't on Instagram, weren't on Facebook, and their only access was basically looking at websites. So I did that, which was great, and the response was really, really good. And then from that, it led to actually producing a book, which was really documenting sort of my first year. So from my point of view, creating a book or doing a website or anything like that was never on the agenda. It was just taking some photographs, giving it to the people as saying, thank you for letting me photograph them. And it's just literally grown from that. And then off the back of that, I then got approached to actually do an exhibition. which
Lovely.
was just literally like, you know, so I've gone from taking a few shots, putting them out online, people liking them, then getting invited to go to other shows, as in sort of like different mods sort of shows, ride outs and things like that. Then for me, getting a bank of imagery, right, how can I share it properly? Creating a website, doing a book. The book was, that all sold out, which was brilliant, a great response within the scene. And then, like I said, just before COVID, I got approached to actually do an exhibition, which was in the homeland of Paul Weller in Woking with the Lightbox Gallery, which was just absolutely fantastic, basically.
So you could put all of your photography there, pride of place, physically there on the walls, and people ready to come in their droves to look at it, and then lockdown.
Absolutely. So, like I said, the whole idea of that really was, in my way, was sort of a bit of a thank you back to the mod scene. So I'd been photographing for a few years, and so for me, it was sort of a thank you back there. It was with a gentleman called Dave Robertson, who basically owns a company, and his company had just moved to Woking. They're based in London as well. And he'd seen sort of quite a few bits of my pieces on Instagram, and he'd been in contact with me, sort of saying, I really like your stuff, blah, blah, blah. And he moved to Woking, and then he got in contact with me and sort of said, I'd like to have a meeting with you. He said, I've got an idea. And he was someone who was very interested in that scene as well. And then basically he was like the linchpin between Lightbox Gallery and me, basically, in the sense of he wanted to put on a show because he's very much in the print world, and the sort of stuff that they do is just amazing. It ranges all right across absolutely everything from big exhibition stands to hoardings outside buildings, you know, the sort of beautiful graphics and things like that, interior design stuff. So it's really sort of the sort of stuff that what they wanted to do with it was not just print it on photographic paper. It was actually printing it sort of on metal. Okay, so it was just absolutely a beautiful way of actually doing it. But like I said, for me, it was like it just blew me away to be asked, and then to sort of say, well, it's your show. You decide in how you want to actually do what you want to do and how you want to do it. And so my day job is sort of I'm an art director for an ad agency. So what that led to me was then creating, which is what you can see now, is the posters and everything like that for the show. And Mark was very much into like advertising it properly. There were giveaways, there were postcards, things like that, because I just wanted everyone who came that they could go away. We created a little sort of like little brochure for the event as well to tell the bigger story about how it all came about, which was lovely. So it wasn't just a case of just turning up and then seeing some photographs. You could actually take stuff away. And I have to say, everything was taken, absolutely everything. In fact, I've only got the test print stuff that was actually done. I haven't got anything of the original stuff that was actually at the show. So everything went, basically. So these were some of the posters that I put together that we used and that were sort of like circulated in the area and things like that to actually advertise the show. And again, that all went online as well. And off the back of that, I'm just going to start working my way through the shots now. Off the back of that, I was actually quite blown away. I actually got an email from a magazine called the Black and White Photography magazine. Now, I remember this magazine when I was at school, and they got wind of what I was doing, and they wanted to put a little advert in their magazine to say about the show that I was putting out. So I was just like absolutely blown away. I couldn't believe it from that point of view.
There's a lot to say there about just putting yourself out there, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean,
none of this would have happened.
It is, and I say it all the time. You've got to speculate to accumulate. You just have to keep pushing stuff out, which is what I do. I'm always updating my Instagram sort of stuff. So even when I go to events and photograph, I just don't put loads of stuff out straight away. I drip feed it through, which people really appreciate, which they really like, basically. And this was one of the shots that was in the show. This, even though I'm called Mad Mods in the camera, I'm sort of photographing suede heads, skinheads as well. It's mostly mods, but because of that sort of subculture scene, I'm sort of mixing with different types of people. and this was a young lady that I've photographed a number of times now, but that was only at events. And what I wanted to do was actually just do like a shoot with her. So we just went into town, into London, and we shot a series of shots over an afternoon. And I got a core of about 10 really nice ones of her. And her name's Claire, and she's based in North London as well. And she's been a really good, supporter in what I'm doing, in the sense I've done shoots that I'm not happy with. And I sort of said, can we do it again? Can we meet up again? She's absolutely really, really accommodating and really, really helpful. And she's just really great to photograph. So like I said, when I did the show, I really wanted to sort of give a bit of a thank you back to people who've been there sort of right at the beginning. And some of the shots they hadn't even seen, so it was quite nice as a surprise that they would come along, and it was just like, oh wow, I didn't remember you took that photograph of me, So it was I wanted to encapsulate absolutely everything, which was really nice. And I had a real surprise. I had loads of them all turned up, and I had no idea, and I just literally went along because I went to pick up something, and they're all there waiting for me. So I was absolutely blown away, really, really touched, basically. So, yeah, and this is a guy that I've photographed very much more from a suede head point of view. He's a DJ, he's a hairdresser, and I did a project with him which was called Suited and Booted, and this was one that I took sort of around Liverpool Street in central London. Again, I'd sort of seen him at sort of events where he's been DJing. I've got that sort of style of photography, but his whole look is just really, really just is on the money. So I suggested we sort of meet up and do something in London. And once our diary sort of clicked at a certain date, we sort of hooked up, and we did a range of sort of shoots basically over a day, which was lovely, which was just really, really nice. But there's a real collection of those that you'll see on my website. I know I'm going to say this now, my new website is coming. So when I sort of come along to the Cambridge Photography Show, it will be up and going there, and hopefully people can have a look and see the sort of other stuff that I've sort of done, basically. Because my site got too big, and there was just so much stuff. Yeah, no, it's it. And I've refined it. What I've done is I've really sort of stripped it back now. Again, it's just drip feeding stuff in. So people sort of see it, but if people sort of go to shows and things like that when I've been photographing, they get in contact with me, and I sort of send them like little high reses of stuff that I photograph, because I just don't, I call it like wedding photography. I don't do that style of photography. So in the sense, I just don't shoot the hell out of it. I go there, the event may be on just for a day, it'd be on for a day, but I'll probably just go there for about a couple of hours. As long as, from my point of view, if I get 6 corkers from a day's shoot, then I'm happy, and I'm very set in my mind in the sense of what I want to get, basically. So that's how I sort of work.
And you're in terms of like making money from this, it sounds like a lot of what you've done is really nice gestures of actually just giving your photography to the people that are involved in your photography. But you also raise money for charity, haven't you?
Yeah, well, I did that with my book. The first book, I sort of like hooked up, because if I was going to put something out there, again, the book was there for people within the scene, because I've had so much support that I wanted to actually donate that, and I donated it to the National Brain Society. So I had a chat with them, went up, did a presentation. This is what I wanted to do, because I wanted their branding in the brochure as well, to tell the story and everything like that. And also it was on a personal level, from a family point of view, why we wanted to do that. And they were over there, they said, yeah, we'd love to support you. So from my point of view, all that money that was raised, it was over £4,000, limited edition of 100 books. And so no one balked at the price or whatever, because every single penny went to the National Brain Appeal. So that was just like fantastic, absolutely fantastic, and they were over the moon about it. So I was really, really pleased about that. Again, I was just blown away that the demand for it was there. They just wanted it, which was just absolutely fantastic. For me, it's all about rapport, in the sense of really understanding the people within the scene. And so the photographs I'm going to sort of flick through now, and I'm quite happy, Chris, at the show, talk about all other bits and pieces that I do through my photography. Nice. But this really demonstrates the sort of rapport. This is someone, this lady called Maz within the scene. Now, for me, when I first got into the scene, I didn't actually photograph her for 2 years because I wanted to really get to know her. And she is a real pinnacle in the scene itself. She's been sort of in the mod scene since she was 12. So to me, it was someone I sort of really looked up to. So it was really gaining that trust and how I was going to photograph, because everyone photographs Maz, everyone does. But I wanted to find a way of photographing her in a completely different way. So that's and it was just building up the relationship. And now we're such really good friends. We've done loads of little projects together. And this shot is from a project that's going to be coming out on my new website called Subculture Lockdown, where I went around the country photographing the mod scene, because obviously no one could go out, and basically photograph them in their own environment now. Whereas you think about it, I'm photographing them in the whole mod scene environment, ride outs, club nights, all that sort of stuff. I was actually going in, that's the trust I gained, that I could actually go to where they actually live and everything like that and photograph them so they were comfortable. So again, it was just really gaining that trust. Basically, it's really understanding who you're going to photograph, what you're going to be photographing, and capturing it in the right essence. Because, like I said, these guys photograph themselves all the time, and like I said, what I want to try and capture something that they would never capture, and then they go, "Do you know what? You've got that on the money. That really sums up that particular ride out or that particular event." That's why I don't shoot tons and tons and tons. I'm very particular in the sense of what I want to try and capture from that point of view. And something
and
like
you're
this,
not like camera, you're not in people's faces as well, aren't you? You're quite like
no, I never. No, absolutely, I never.
Very unobtrusive.
I never hold the camera up through the viewfinder because I've got the back, so the camera is always down by my side. So again, people think about the angles. They think like, "Oh my God, how did you photograph that? Because you're tall or whatever." My camera was always down here, down by my side. So again, it's just capturing different sort of things. Like this guy Zach, again, a real good, lovely, well, top face within the scene. But he was actually in the middle of actually doing a film, so he had to grow out all his hair and everything like that. And again, he sort of said, "I'd like you to come and photograph me because no one has seen me like this," because they were just coming out of lockdown. He was going to be doing the film, so it was a real honor to be asked to go and photograph him, which was really, really lovely, you know. So again, it's gaining that trust, and again, it's continuously, from my point of view, is putting that stuff out there online. My Instagram account is if all intents and purposes, my Instagram account is actually my website. The website to me is like the mothership where everything is just stored. If you really want to get my essence, my website is my Instagram. That's how I chat to people. That's how I arrange to do shoots or do other projects. Again, like this guy here, literally, what's quite nice now is when I sort of talk to people, I'd always ask them if I can photograph them. You get a lot of people who just go up and photograph people and walk away. I'm very much not like that. Very much going up and talking to people, blah, 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 and then come back and then photograph them when they're at events. But I'm starting to get people sort of go, "Oh, I just want to," when I explain what I'm doing, I go, "Oh, mad mods in the camera." And they go, "Oh, I know you. I follow you. I love your stuff." Nice. Which is just really, really, it's just really nice. And that's, again, when you get that, you know you're doing the right thing within the scene in what you're photographing, which I totally, that to me is if I'm capturing it in the right way, then I've done it basically. And then, like I said, you know, there's nothing bigger compliment when people, you know, say, "Oh, I'm following you. I know who you are, what you're doing," because then to photograph them, they're totally relaxed and they know what I want to capture, which is absolutely, you know, half the work is done. So that's why it's always important for me is gaining that trust first from that point of view. And I've gone to some events where I haven't photographed that much, but I wanted to talk to people and they really then understand what I do. So when I go back again, they understand what I'm doing. So in some ways I play like the long game. And that's really, to sum up this photograph, this is a guy called Lucas, a really talented guy. He's a musician, he's a mechanic, sorting out Vespers and all that sort of stuff, and Lambrettas. Like I say, he's a musician. And again, within the scene, he's such a recognizable face. But again, he's a guy who's photographed quite a lot when they go to places. So again, from my point of view, it is going to try and photograph him that no one else has photographed him in a particular way.
Yeah.
But this was an event that I went to that it was raining. So for me, I went because there wouldn't be a lot of people there. And also because the conditions are not good, you get a different vibe. So for me, it was absolutely perfect. And I was talking to someone else within the scene, and I was sort of saying, I know that's Lucas. Could you introduce me to him? Because I'd love to photograph. So we'd sort of met each other a few times or whatever. And she just grabbed me and said, yeah, come on, over you go. And I just sort of said, look, I want to photograph you. And he was going to get out the car. And I said, no, just sit in the car. But I don't want you to look at me, look left, look right. And I did a number of shots. And this was my favorite out of it. But the shots you've seen now were the shots that basically were in my first exhibition. Right. And it was my way of going back and saying, thank you guys for letting me, within the scene, photograph you. And I couldn't compliment them more than basically putting them in an exhibition, basically. And that was the whole essence of my first exhibition. But like I said, to be asked to do an exhibition, to think when I started in 2005, just posting some pictures online, going to an Instagram, going to a website, going to a book, and now doing my first exhibition. And in fact, I've just come off my second exhibition, if I'm going to be really honest, that was out in Spain.
Spain, lovely.
Yeah. So again, I'll be happy when I come along for the weekend or whatever and chat to people or whatever from that point of view. But yeah, for me, it's just keep pushing that stuff out there. Don't saturate it, but just drip feed stuff out there, because people will wait to see what you're doing.
Mad Moz and the camera is going international. Awesome.
I'd like to think so. Yeah. But the book, like I said, went everywhere. It went to Argentina, went to America, Australia, New Zealand, went to the Philippines, right across Europe. So so like I said, I was really touched when people bought the book. But like I said, it's more important to click with the people than it is to click with the shutter, and that's it. I think my biggest compliment was from Maz, one of the photographs I showed you there. She said the best way to sum you up, because I was trying to work out what sort of photographer I am. Okay. And I don't use the term I'm a photographer. Like I said, I'm just really still learning absolutely. She said, you're a kitchen sink photographer. And I said, kitchen sink? She said, yeah, because you show warts and all. You show absolutely everything, which is lovely. You don't, there's nothing false or anything like that. You're not trying to hide anything. You just literally photograph that moment in the sense. So from my point of view, I'll take that. I'm a kitchen sink photographer. That's the best way to describe me.
Well, that's when you talk about that, building that rapport, it's similar to what Mark Box, who's also part of our on-demand series of videos. He's got an account called Humans of Cambridge, and he talks about building that rapport. It's really nice, and so he gets some really great photography from that. And also Jean-Luc Banazet, who does portrait photography, but also has worked in the music scene and has photographed got lots of Stereophonics, Charlatans, Amy Winehouse, lots of people. And again, he was talking about that thing about rapport, and I think being approachable and not being intrusive is really, obviously is really, really important. And also, you put yourself out there, which is great. And as you said, Instagram is really the essence of what you're about, and the main hub of what you do. And it's you exhibiting work, which is fantastic, absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, well, I'm hoping to bring my show to London now.
Lovely.
So there's conversations that are going to start for next year in actually doing an exhibition in London, which would be lovely to do it in London. Definitely bring it to London.
Well, before that, you'll be coming to Cambridge, and you'll be at the Cambridge Photography Show at we're at Hilton in Cambridge on Downing Street. The show, we have free tickets available for the exhibition. And we also have workshops at £20, but the talks are free with the exhibition pass. And actually, Duncan will be doing a panel discussion with us, talking about how to turn your hobby into something more. So yeah, get your ticket if you haven't done so already. Also, check out all the other content we've got available on CambridgePhotography.com. Duncan, I really appreciate it. I know you're busy, so it's been really great just to take some time out and chat about this, fantastic body of work.
Always a pleasure talking to you, buddy. Always a pleasure. And like I said, I know I'm coming along to the event or whatever, but if anybody wants to have a chat about more stuff that I'm doing or anything, or any questions, then I'd be more than happy to chat and answer what everybody asks.